This is Dr. X.H. Balthazar. I am broadcasting once again to present my findings from the world of the uncanny. November 12th, 1958. 3 teenagers were found brutally murdered on Halloween night just outside the quiet town of Clifton, Virginia. Billy Bastet, 16, Wendy Mills, also 16, and Jasper Collins, 17. All students at the local high school. The slayings rocked the town, with many demanding answers. As of this recording, the authorities in the area have yet to make an arrest, and to my knowledge, have yet to identify a suspect in this gruesome crime. Needless to say, I have received countless inquiries regarding this mystery. When horrors such as this go unexplained, the mind tends to wander to the unearthly. I often overlook cases such as this, given their lack of credible evidence. That is until a particular letter caught my eye. Mona Sunderland, a student at the same high school as the deceased students, sent me a letter. In her writing, she claims to have been with the victims on the night of the murders. Furthermore, she claims to know who is responsible for the heinous crimes. A first-hand account. I thought it strange that this was not mentioned in any of the police filings I was able to obtain. Thus, I've invited Miss Sunderland to join me this evening. Graciously, she was able to accommodate. Miss Sunderland, thank you for joining me for this broadcast. Your bravery in this situation is highly valued.
Thank you, Doctor.
Let us start with a simple question. Why share your story here, on this broadcast?
Peace of mind? Not completely, I know, but I thought myself insane for a moment. It is not a normal feeling witnessing a murder. In my case, it's especially strange.
Why is that?
I knew what was going to happen. I suppose not every detail, but I knew something terrible was coming.
A premonition of sorts? How did this feeling first occur to you?
We were leaving a party at the Garland's house. We walked for about a half a mile, maybe more. That's where we saw them. The, rabbits.
Rabbits?
Like an animal got to them. They were cut into. Maybe chewed on? I'm not sure.
What was significant about these rabbits?
Billy and Jasper just prodded at them with a stick. Wendy thought it was so gross she gagged and ran away. I was terrified. 3 dead rabbits laid out in the road. That's when I knew something was terribly wrong.
I feel as though I am missing some context.
You are, Doctor. Although I shudder at the thought of sharing it.
Miss Sunderland, that may be our only hope of understanding, of a resolution to this horror.
In my letter, I told you I knew who killed my friends. In Clifton, everyone knew who killed them too. They're all too scared to accept it. But this has all happened before.
So that's how the rabbits are connected? Some sort of historical significance?
Most people call me crazy after I tell them that.
Quite the opposite, really. I would very much like to hear more.
It was almost 50 years ago, after they opened the mental institution off Colchester Road, not far from, well, a patient escaped. He was said to have murdered his wife and child, buried them alive in a shallow grave just outside the city limits.
Horrible.
They never found him. But not long after, people began finding rabbits, just like the ones we saw. Half eaten, ripped apart. Whoever the escaped patient was, he was surviving in the woods. People started calling him the Bunny Man. It was harmless enough at first, just a few bunnies here and there. Then the murders. 3 people slaughtered in the woods. the same manner that my friends were murdered.
So you believe these events of the past echo that of the present?
Yes.
Then I believe it would be beneficial to examine your personal experience now that we are aware of the context. Of course, only if you are comfortable with sharing the details.
I will try.
If you would recount to me the events following your encounter with the mutilated rabbits.
Wendy and I waited at the end of the road. The boys were still playing with the corpses, but before too long, they left them alone. Jasper wanted to head back to his house. His mom always turned in early. I think he was sweet on me. Wendy and Billy were already hanging on each other. We cut through the trees off of Manon Street and started walking.
Did you share your feelings of fear with your friends?
God, no. I would never have lived it down.
Were your friends aware of the legend as well?
I know Jasper was. I remember he tried to scare me once. We were supposed to meet at Lewis Park when I couldn't find him. He snuck up behind me and whispered in my ear, "I'll skin you like a rabbit."
Did any of them share in your worries that night?
Not at first. The boys were joking around, wrestling and talking big. We were maybe a mile or so away from Jasper's when we started walking on Colchester. The road is mostly dirt and tire treads, but Jasper knew the way. Ahead was a bridge underpass. By then, I was so afraid I started dragging behind. I couldn't stop thinking about the rabbits on the road. That's when Jasper turned around to walk with me. I could hardly look up, but I caught a glimpse of him bounding toward me all silly. Then suddenly, he fell. He started screaming. Blood was pouring out of his leg. It was an old hunting trap. Billy tried to pry the thing off, but every time Jasper just screamed louder and louder. Billy said he was gonna go for help. There was a station maybe half a mile away, right past Jasper's house. Wendy wanted to go with him, but she was in kitten heels. All I could think about was the man who lived in the woods. I looked up to see Billy jogging away toward the bridge. He got maybe 50 feet before he fell too. An arrow, I think, stuck in his leg. That's when I saw him. A large man, covered head to toe in dirt and grime. I couldn't see his face. He wore a mask. It looked like fur or skin. He stood over Billy and stared down at him. I couldn't make out what he was holding, but I saw him. He struck Billy once. The sound it made. Oh, God.
This is where Billy Bastet was killed?
No, Doctor. After the second swing, the man started lumbering toward us. We were just down the road, but with Jasper's leg, I wasn't going anywhere. Wendy began screaming out for help. I don't think anyone was close enough to listen. I could hear Jasper begging me to set him free below me, but my eyes stayed locked on the man as he grew closer. Wendy ran, but her heels got caught in the mud. He caught up with her. She screamed louder than I've ever heard someone scream. I watched him grab her by the hair and hold a buck knife to her throat. Jasper held on to me tight. I tried to get him to his feet, but he could barely stand with the trap in his leg. We limped away, maybe a few feet. That's when I heard Wendy's body drop. Jasper told me to keep going, not to look back. I dragged him as quickly as I could. He looked so afraid. Jasper collapsed. I turned and saw the masked man standing over us. I could see him clearly now. His hair was matted back on his head, and a thick, twisted beard concealed most of his face. Behind the mask, his eyes were a hollow gray, bloodshot and yellow. The dark brown jumpsuit he wore was stained with dried blood and filth. As I looked up at him, I knew we were all going to die.
But you didn't.
He knelt down in front of me and began pulling Jasper away. Jasper tried holding on to me, but the man pulled at the trap on his leg, digging it deeper and deeper into the wound. Before long, the pain became too great and Jasper was dragged away. I was completely frozen in fear, too petrified to move. I felt as though I had died already. I watched as the man dragged Jasper up to the top of the bridge, wrapped a rope around his neck, and dropped him off of the side. Wendy was next. I could see the blood soaking the rope around her neck. Finally, Billy. The last I saw him, I couldn't recognize his face. He was beaten senseless. I doubt he even knew what was happening. I counted the seconds after Billy was strung up. I thought surely I was next. Seconds turned to minutes. Minutes turned to an hour. I looked and realized he was gone. All that was left was the 3 hanging bodies.
This killer spared you?
I don't think he spared me. When I gained the strength to move again, I saw a rabbit standing under their bodies, alive and well. When I took a step toward it, it ran away back into the woods.
A coincidence?
No, I don't think so. I thought about that for a long time. I have thought about all of this for a long time. If you were a hunter, you wouldn't want to catch every rabbit around you, because then there are no more rabbits left to catch.
Did you inform anyone else of this experience? The authorities, perhaps?
I tried to tell them it was the bunny man. You can imagine they didn't really believe me. They tried searching for the killer, but they were looking in the wrong places. Truck stops, motels. Eventually, they called off the official search.
Anyone else? Your family? Friends?
Everyone. They all know the stories like I do. They all know the murders are exactly the same as they were 50 years ago, but they won't believe me. They told me to stop telling my story, that it was disrespectful to the dead. I know what I saw, Doctor.
Well, I assure you, Mona, your story will be broadcast for my listeners to decide. Hopefully your testimony here will prove useful in apprehending this monster.
Thank you, Doctor. I only ask that my story be told honestly. Knowing that, I can rest a little easier now.
Thank you for joining me, Miss Sunderland. For now, this case remains open. I can only hope that some justice will be rendered soon. Until then, goodbye and good night.